Hello, I'm Lana McAra, and I help people break through social programming. Welcome to Now It's My Turn, coming to you from the greater Philadelphia area. And we're right here on YouTube. We were on a TV network for several seasons, and then we decided to move to YouTube, and it's been going great. So welcome to our YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. We have some beautiful guests on here and a lot of other great stuff going on. So today we're going to be talking about radical alignment, one of my favorite topics of all time. Our purpose each week is to open the door for the 50-plus woman to live a life she absolutely loves. Today's 50-plus woman is vibrant, alive, filled with passion and purpose, and she's a powerful force for good in the world. And we're here to unleash that power by breaking through social programming. You're going to hear that a lot around here. And exposing the myths to show that our best years are still ahead. Now, that's not to mean that everybody who's on the show is over 50. Actually, I have men on the show because anyone can share some really beautiful ideas with women who over 50 who really need it. So in this program, we always ask two questions. The first one is, who am I? Who am I now? In this phase of my life, now that child rearing is pretty much over, career, we're heading toward retirement, who am I now? And the second question, what do I really want? What do I want this phase of my life to look like? Because we have so many options. We are healthy, we're strong, we're smart, we've got so much to offer, and we have an open door. We can do it. So what do I really want? What do I want my life to be? So get your pen and paper and write down your intention for this broadcast, because when you write it down, it's going to go in a much deeper and better way. And of course, share this video if it means something to you, and join us on our YouTube channel, which is Now It's My Turn, of course. Well, today our guest, I am so excited to get her in here. Our guest is Deidre Sirianni. She's the founder of Radically Aligned, where she serves a community of impact-driven entrepreneurs, coaches, leaders, and visionaries on their journey of healing, integrated change, and making the biggest impact through their work. Doesn't that sound just like us? She is a TEDx speaker, leadership coach, and spiritual guide who believes the foundation of fulfillment and impact come down to intention and living in alignment with your purpose. She serves her community nomadically. And Deidre, we're going to talk about that. I love that word. And she has had the pleasure of supporting hundreds of people on their journey to awakening to their highest selves and their full potential. Welcome, Deidre.
Thank you so much for having me. And I just want to say that I love that you started the episode today, this conversation with intention, because intention is literally the foundation of creation. So I think that's really beautiful.
Oh, yes, absolutely. When I saw what you were all about, my heart just opened up and said, wow, we've got to talk, because I feel so much connection and alignment of purpose, with what you're doing. So tell us, first of all, before we get into the meat of the broadcast, what does nomadically mean? Are you living in a bus?
Well, not currently. I mean, I've never lived on a bus or anything like that, but before everything shut down with, the whole pandemic, I was living out of a suitcase and traveling around the world because my work is location independent. So I serve people online, I serve people in person. And so I've had the opportunity of living all over the world, and it's constantly changing because I love experiencing different cultures and being in different hubs. So that's what I mean by nomadically. But no, I'm not living on a bus. I'm on a bus right now. Can't you see? The wind's blowing in my hair.
The dog hanging his head out the window with his ears flapping. Yeah.
Totally. That's dream. That's my dream, is having a dog, traveling, dog head out the window. Yeah, totally.
Mm-hmm. I can so relate to that. After my divorce, I also did some of that. I didn't go global, but I was all over the country. I called it couch surfing with friends, and even a client said, hey, come on down, and I spent the winter with her in Florida, and we just had a blast. So I understand, and I love that life. I appreciate it.
I love that.
Yeah, breaking through that social programming again. which, which we're all about. So what was it that got you started on this path? What was the change that took you in this direction particularly?
Well, I love that you serve people over 50, because most of the people that I work with are actually 45 plus. I know that I look young. I am pretty young. I'm in my 30s. But most of the people that resonate with the work that I do are 50 plus, because they've had those transitions, because they've broken through those ceilings of being like, this actually isn't what I want. I want something new. I have the experience. I have the knowingness of what I want now. So my journey of stepping into the work that I do now came from a lot of programming, came from a lot of living a dual life. And I was the person where I got really good at checking things off a list, doing things that I thought I should do, being the person I thought I should be. And I had no idea who I really was. And that led me down a path of getting married young, starting a business that wasn't fulfilling, where I wasn't living in my full gifts, where I was playing small, and I wasn't listening to my intuition, because I was never taught how to do that. And I think this is something that is so important today, because so many of us are learning it now, and we can even look back on our life and be like, wow, like that was programming. That wasn't the true identity of who I am. So long story short, it could be a very long story, but we'll keep it nice and short for this for this conversation. I did all the things that I thought I should do for the first 3 decades of my life. And it got me to a place of manifesting multiple kinds of disease. I had 4 different kinds of autoimmune disease. I was told I was going to lose all of my hair at one point, because I lost a huge chunk of hair. And I had social anxiety, although I was in front of 50 to 100 people a day with my past business. I had stomach pain. I was allergic to most foods. I had chronic pain in my body in my mid-20s, to the point where massage therapists and people were like, we can't help you. And I had depression to the point of wanting to end my life. And I share all this because it's really easy to look at someone like me or anyone and just be like, oh, they have it easy. Oh, they're doing great. Life has been easy for them. I've experienced a lot, as we all have, and a lot of trauma and things that I shoved down because I didn't know how to deal with it. So how I really got onto this path was the signs were coming on really strong. My universe, the universe, whatever you want to call it, was screaming at me. And I hit my rock bottom moment where I lost that big chunk of hair. And I got a message from my soul that told me if I didn't change my life, I was going to get cancer and die within a year. And sounds a little wild, but because I was manifesting all these other kinds of disease, because the doctors were like, well, we don't know like what's going on or where this is coming from, because I was healthy, in my mid to late 20s, I knew that this was my body shutting down because I wasn't living my truth. I wasn't living on purpose. And it brought me down a path of studying with shamans for a decade, of discovering different types of healing modalities and really honoring myself. And through that, I had to release everything that wasn't me to discover who I was. And I finally surrendered to my gifts, which is supporting people to heal trauma and to live on purpose and make the change. Because I really do believe that when we heal our trauma and we're courageous enough to do that work, and we're courageous enough to take massive inspired action on the things that we're scared to do, everything opens up and our purpose is found. And that's exactly what happened for me. So a lot of discomfort, a lot of trauma, a lot of resistance, and then finally honoring myself, stepping out of a marriage that was mentally and emotionally abusive. I was with that person for almost a decade, leaving relationships, walking away from a business, starting a new business. When I left my marriage, I really lacked confidence and self-worth. I didn't know that I had anything to offer, but I trusted what wasn't working for me. And every time I listened to the contraction as a no and the expansion as a yes, the next best thing was shown. And so that's my journey of stepping into this space.
Wow, so much courage. And I know you probably hear that a lot, but yeah, to follow your purpose and not just cave in to all of that pressure, that is tremendous. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
So what are the stages of turning your light on? What does that mean?
I love it. So one of my signature events and programs is called Turn Your Light On. And this was really birthed from a vision I had years ago of looking down at the world and turning lights on. And I think of like waking up to who you're meant to be in the world, right? And really seeing clearly, being a channel for who you're meant to be, and deprogramming, as you were speaking of earlier. And so the 4 stages are stage 1. And when I shared my story of where I was years ago, from the outside looking in, I was a high performer. I was the happiest person everyone knew, but the symptoms I was experiencing was anxiety, depression, chronic pain, dis-ease, disconnected from purpose. I had fear, and I really wasn't living on purpose. And so all of those signs of dis-ease, anxiety, depression, chronic pain, feeling disconnected from ourselves, others, and having that kind of numbness, that's a stage 1. That's the light is off. And how I like to think of it is being in the forest in the middle of the night. And I've been stuck in the forest in the middle of the night once without a flashlight. And let me tell you, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be here. But it's like being in the forest in the middle of the night, pitch black, you're hearing noises. You don't have a flashlight, or your flashlight doesn't work. What are you going to do? You're going to contract. You're not going to take any moves forward or backward to the side because you don't know where to go. You don't know how to take a step forward. You're probably feeling contracted. You're in anxious mode, and you're not really able to move forward. You feel stuck. This is stage 1. And what's needed most in stage 1 is some clarity, some vision, some reference points of, where could I go? Some possibility, some healing of trauma. Because when we heal our trauma, we're not in default setting anymore of people pleasing or not knowing, because we're actually in tune with our intuition. So there's a few other things that's needed. Stage 2 is the flickering light stage. This is where a lot of people come to me and decide to do the deeper work. And this is where your light's on sometimes and it's off sometimes. So again, in the forest in the middle of the night, it's pitch black. Sometimes your flashlight's on and you're moving on purpose. You know where you're going, you feel pretty good, and you're not seeing what's going on beside you. And then other moments it turns off. And guess what happens? You go back into that stage 1, contraction, second guessing yourself, not being on purpose, having anxiety, pain, symptoms of depression, etc. And so what's needed most in this stage is really stabilization of our light. So what's going on in stage 2 of the flickering light is there's a lot of subconscious triggers that are happening. And because you're constantly being triggered and you don't even know it, you're going about your day, your life. And sometimes you show up powerfully, you're on purpose. Maybe you're like going to the gym, you're feeling great, you're outgoing, you're putting your message out there, you're getting this inspiration, and then something happens. Maybe you know what it is, maybe you don't. And then all of a sudden you go back into contraction. So what's needed most is, again, trauma work to heal the trauma, processing that, and also upper limiting belief systems, upper limiting beliefs, and reprogramming of these subconscious patterns that are blocking you from stabilizing your light and showing up on purpose consistently. Usually at this stage of impact-driven entrepreneurship, I just like to think of humans as being impact-driven. I just say entrepreneurs because those are a lot of people I work with, but it's like, we're here to be on purpose. And if we're not on purpose, if we're not showing up, if we keep, being triggered and playing small, we lose self-trust. We don't have the confidence we want. Other people don't trust us. We're not getting consistent results in anywhere in our life, and we're not feeling good about ourselves. So stabilization and all of that. The third stage is your lights on bright. Your bright, shiny light. But the thing is, it's a bright, shiny light that's going in all directions. So again, if you're in the forest in the middle of the night, you can see a little bit forward to the side, to the right, to the left, but there's not a clear path yet. So what typically happens at stage 3 of having your light on, you got a lot of energy, you got a lot of inspiration. And what tends to happen in the space of entrepreneurship and just being an impact-driven human is we tend to dabble in a lot of things. And what happens is we'll do things that bring us a quick hit that we're good at. And we usually put our time and energy into other people's dreams, other people's projects, or a lot of our own projects. And we're not moving that one thing forward that we truly know that we're here to do, because we lack self-trust, we lack the full vision, and it's safer and easier to sidestep and overwhelm ourselves and be overcommitted, because that's a high level way of self-sabotaging our success. So what's needed most in this stage is to quiet the noise, to stabilize, to understand your vision, get radically committed to it, have the right support system, mentors, do some reprogramming and training, be in that mentorship space of having people who are going to lift you higher and push you, and also trusting yourself and taking that leap, because it's very common for people who have a big mission and purpose to overcommit, because it's easier to say yes to the things that you're good at than to actually trust in yourself and go all forward. And then finally, the fourth stage is the laser focus light. So this is the noise canceling is on. You're not tapped into the noise. You're not looking at what other people are doing. You know where you're going. Every day you wake up, you're on purpose, you're inspired. Things are moving, synchronicities are happening on your path. People are showing up on your path to support you because they know you're radically aligned. They know you're fully committed. You trust yourself. Other people trust you. You're making the kind of impact you want, the kind of abundance you want, and you're in legacy creation mode. And this is where we all want to be. So those are the 4 stages of turning your light on. And so I support people to go from stage 1 to stage 4.
I love the way you broke that down, because it's so easy to see, the progression, not only that, but also kind of where you fit in that, whole dynamic. I so resonate with doing everything too much, like overwhelm. Oh, can you do that? Yeah. Oh, can you do that? Yeah. Or else you're sitting in some kind of a seminar and you're like, oh, I can do that. Squirrel.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's such a common challenge that so many people face. I'm overwhelmed. I don't have enough time. It's like, you've actually created that for yourself because there's underneath potentially a fear of success, right? And maybe not the right support system in place. So thank you for bringing that up.
So what would you say is the reason why people are not living in that laser focused, purpose driven life?
Absolutely. So there's a few different things. One piece is definitely unhealed trauma. The word trauma scares a lot of people, and I understand why. I think it's really misunderstood, which is why I'm really committed, as one of my parts of my purpose is to educate on it in the space of coaching and moving forward in the work that I do. It's actually very quick and easy. We go to the room, we pull it out. There's a lot of work out there that's still amazing, but it's kind of like, it's kind of like having a bunch of weeds in your yard, and every week you're mowing the lawn over them, right? So meditation, some breath work, a lot of these different modalities, although they're very powerful, a lot of people have the idea that they're going to help you potentially heal trauma, and they do a lot of great work, but a lot of mindfulness practices, you have to practice them or they throw you out of whack. Like, I was in conversation with a client the other day, and she was saying, I used to meditate for 3 hours a day. I used to do all these practices, but if I didn't do them, things wouldn't go well, right? Until I started working with you. And then we just went to the root and pulled it out. So there's a lot of practices out there that are really helpful. However, if you have unhealed trauma, which I truly believe is the root cause to self-sabotage, addiction, playing small, all of these symptoms that we don't want to have in our life, what happens is we're mowing over the weeds. And because we're mowing over the weeds every week or every day, they continue to grow. So number 1 is healing trauma. When you heal your trauma, you can operate from a place of choice, because when we have unhealed trauma, there's an image, there's a thought, there's a body sensation, emotion, and energetic that gets frozen in time in our body because we haven't been able to process it. And then as we move about our day, going about our purpose, having our relationships, something happens in our subconscious where we remember something that's a reference point to a trauma that we had, an undesired experience that we weren't able to process, is how I like to look at trauma. And then we step away from what we want. We self-sabotage, we numb, we disconnect, we do all these things. So we're not actually in control of how we show up until we heal our trauma. So that's number 1. The second thing that is really important is I like to think of flowers. And I'm no gardener, by the way. I have a garden for the first time in my life. And it's mainly like, fruits and vegetables. I'm stoked about it. But flowers, like me, flower mama, like not my best self. And I live somewhere where it's really hot and there's a lot of wind, and anyways, we'll blame it on that. But the truth is, if you put a plant in the wrong environment, even if you water it and have good intentions behind it, it may not bloom, it may die. So getting yourself in the right environment is everything. The truth is, your family, the people that you have in your life right now, probably don't understand where you're going, especially if you're in a growth phase, especially if you know that where you've been living in your life isn't quite where you want to be. I basically had to dismantle most of my life that I built for 30 years in order to find a good support system. And it not necessarily mean that for everyone listening, but it's like plugging yourself in environments where people are working towards the same things. People have that mindset of growth, and you have mentors and support where you can do the work and you're plugged into it. Because if you're in the wrong environment, you might think that something's wrong with you. I remember in my past relationship and dynamics, I would talk about what I would want to do, and people would look at me like cross-eyed, like I actually thought something was wrong with me. My husband was like, why do you want those things? And I was like, oh, I don't know. Because I thought I was like, there was something wrong with me. So plugging yourself into the right environments, getting the right support, and always growing. So those are the main pieces. Having a coach who can show you where you're out of alignment is amazing. I have multiple coaches. I'm in multiple masterminds. Environment, healing trauma, right support system. Those three things need to be there if you truly want to show up powerfully.
Yes, I so resonate with that. I want to just emphasize a couple things that you said because they're just amazing. One of the things that I find with older women, and which I've had in my own life with my children and my grandchildren, is that we are afraid of the family opinion, of grown children. And this is something that I think, especially as women, we really have like a deep-rooted problem with this, because we want our children to approve of us. We want our children to think that we're doing well. But sometimes when we are in our spiritual growth, they're not there. And so then we take action to do certain things, and they're like, Mom, are you sure? I think you might be losing it a little bit. Maybe you need to get tested. And so, yeah, you don't want to have that conversation, but those things do happen. They do happen. But at the same point, we don't want to break the relationship with our children. It just needs to be modified. And so that has been my experience. When I got a divorce, my children were all totally angry with me, totally didn't get it. And I lost that connection for 2 years. I was not in touch with my kids. It was devastating.
I can imagine.
And so now that we're back in connection, now I just got a major hit that I need to move to Sedona, and I am in Philadelphia. I've never lived in the West in my life. And so now when I tell my children, you know what, I'm getting like a feeling like I need to move to Sedona, Arizona. And they're like, there goes Mom again. She's off her rocker again, but not being too attached is really key, because I think what you just said there will stop some people from moving forward, because the relationships that we have, especially with our grandchildren, and of course the grandchildren are involved there. I lost my grandchildren for 2 years as well. Those things really are painful.
Yeah.
But they don't have to be lost. They can be modified. And the better coming back to it later, we leave, we adjust, and then we come back later. And the new relationship dynamic is so much better than it was before, because you have to honor yourself, don't you? You have to honor what you know. Yeah. Yes.
I love that you're sharing this, because it's like, I'm not in the same position as you when I had all of those changes. But let me tell you, the amount of resistance I had with family and people in my life that, I had when stepping into who I truly am. And that's the thing. It's like, what I've noticed about this work personally, and also with the people that I've served, is that when you own who you are, the world will adjust. If you are 1 foot in, 1 foot out, then you are going to create more of those wobbly relationships. But if you're like, listen, kids, listen, family, I know you don't understand what's going on with me. I understand this is scary, and this is me honoring myself. And this is my intention. I don't want our relationship to change. But this is important to me, and it means a lot to me if you can honor and respect that. Or I know that in the past, I've always been this way, and moving forward, this is how I'm going to be. And I hope that you can honor and respect it. And really, like, when I think of that, when I think of like women and men, and it's so like, I love doing this work with people who are, in their 40s, 50s, 60s, which is most of my clients, is because it takes a lot of courage to make a big change at that time, because you've been so attached to your personality and your identity up until this point.
Mm-hmm.
But the courage that you have to do it, once you take that step, once you commit to it, everything opens up. And it's just like, it's so inspiring. And I think that being that pillar of truth is going to, whether your family or people in your life understand it or not, later down the road in their life, they're going to get it. And you are going to be that inspiration for them, because life changes. We're evolving. We're supposed to. So thank you so much for sharing that. That's beautiful.
Well, it's an ongoing process. And, as having been on this journey for many years now, I can tell you it never stops. It just
really
gets, bigger and better.
It doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And the less attached, because I think that a lot of us get so attached to our belongings, our house, our relationships, and so forth, that we hold on.
Mm-hmm.
And when there's wonderful riches for us at many levels just around the corner, but we're sitting here holding onto our little tugboat or little toy, and we can't let it go, and we deprive ourselves of the blessings that are there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what's the next step?
What's the next step?
Yeah, what's the next step to finding your purpose? And
so how does one find their purpose? Or
well, how do you get into into radical alignment? How do you do it? What's the next step? Go there.
Absolutely. So basically I don't want to say there's a lot of different ways to get there, because I really do believe the pathway that I've created is radically aligned and proven, and it's very, very tuned in. There's 3 phases that I incorporate into my programs and into the work. And if you're watching right now and you're looking for like a little takeaway, this will be really helpful and something that you can implement today. And if you're looking to take it further, I'm more than happy to share that later, Lana, if you feel called for me to share that. So the first thing is radical honesty. So in order to do anything in life, if you really want to live in truth, if you really want to step into your purpose, your power, have more confidence, have more abundance, whatever it is, have more impact, you have to get radically honest with yourself. And this is where most people tiptoe around it. They do something called, the shit pie. Hopefully I can say that on your show. But it's like, everything's, this thing doesn't feel good, but everything else is great. So it's like this distraction mechanism to actually dealing with the things that aren't working in your life. And so, anytime we're about to have a big up level, anytime we're about to have a shift, anytime we want to shift, there's always something that's not working that needs to change. However, what I find a lot with women specifically, and I know that, a lot of your audience is women, is you do the thing where it's like, oh, this thing isn't working, but all of these great things are here. So it's like this distraction thing, and we call it the shit pie. And so what I like to say is, okay, so if I were to give you a pie that had, a little bit of shit in it, just a little bit, and I was like, it's so delicious, there's sprinkles on top of it, it's your favorite pie, would you have a piece of the pie, Lana? No. Right? But in life, we do this. There's stuff going on, and we're sugarcoating it. We're looking at the positive, and it's a avoidance tactic for actually dealing with the thing and having courage. So step 1, if you want to transform your life, if you want to live on purpose, is getting radically honest with yourself with what's not working. And there's a programming also, more with women than with men, is, oh, everything's good, I'm great. I know I had that for years. I was a perma smile girl. I didn't know how to feel other feelings, especially anger, like was not in my space. It was scary to me. And it's like, what is not working? What doesn't feel good? How are you actually with your finances? How are you actually with your fulfillment? How are you actually in your relation? Like, how do you actually feel? And allowing yourself to feel that and be like, okay, this isn't working. This isn't working. Having the courage to look at what's not working is the second step. So honesty, courage, and then showing up, which is where we take action. And this is where everything happens. When you listen, when you can be radically honest with yourself, with what's not working, have the courage to really look at it and then make a plan and then take action, everything opens up. And so as far as, radical alignment, there's a few different pillars that I operate on in my company that's called Radically Aligned. The Radically Aligned Academy is number one is truth. So truth, there's a triangle, a circle, and then a flower in the middle for the logo. So the top of the triangle is truth, which is like our process of awaking up to who we are and who we're meant to be in the world, which is the healing work, which is the, the radical honesty, the courage, and then the showing up. From there, once we've truly healed ourselves and we're not operating in duality and like fear and all that, then we move into pillar number two, which is living and leading from the heart, which is unconditional love. Most people can't experience unconditional love because they have not healed themselves. They're not operating in truth. When you're not operating in truth, you can't access unconditional love because everything is based on you staying comfortable, you staying safe, right? And so then there's a disconnect in the relationship. And then from there, the third pillar is purpose and impact, because we're all here for a divine purpose. We're all here to create a big impact in the world. But the thing is, until we've actually woken up to the truth of who we are, we've done that work, we are potentially most likely not going to be actually on purpose or making the impact that we want, because we're not operating in truth. We're operating in duality. We're doing the shit pie thing and we're playing small. And when we play small, when we settle for less than what we want, when we have these behaviors that aren't serving us, we are broadcasting to the universe, yeah, I'm going to have some more shit pie, or I'm going to continue to settle for the 60% because that's all I think I'm worth. So what's going to happen in your career, with your finances, with your impact? Same thing. You're going to settle, you're going to play small, you're going to sidestep, you're going to overcommit. The third piece is our divine expression, which is the flower that's in the center of this symbol, and is our unique expression in the world. When we can show up powerfully as who we are, who we're meant to be, not apologizing for that, everyone can see us. And that's where all of our people show up. That's where our divine clients come in, our soulmates, everything shows up for us. And then there's a circle around the logo. That's the divine wisdom that we carry and create over time, from truth to love to purpose and impact to our soul's expression. And when we combine all of those and we are living that is radical alignment. And that's what I help people embody and create in their life.
Wow, so powerful. That is really, really amazing. So how do we get more?
Absolutely. So there's a few different things that we can do. One of the things that I am obsessed with is my Turn Your Light On program. I can add the link below, or I'm sure you can, Lana, which would be wonderful. And it's an 8-week program where we do all of this work together. There's a program of people. We've had over 70 people go through it in the last 10 months. It is life-changing. We've had people go into the program who have done 10, 20, 30, 40 years of personal development, who have said this is the best program they have ever taken in their life and the best investment they've ever made. So this program is incredible. It's 8 weeks. We work on quieting the noise. So if you're overwhelmed, if you're overcommitted, if you find that you're doing the shiny opportunity syndrome, or you just don't have enough time, we work on that in the first week. Then we dive into upper limiting beliefs. So I talked a little bit about, your lights on, the lights off, the flickering light. And so what happens there is we have these subconscious belief systems that are causing us to play small, to avoid, to self-sabotage when opportunity comes. This is really, really key. If we don't get a hold of that and change it, it's always going to be the thing that's keeping you just below where you know your full potential is. And so we deal with that in week 2, so that throughout the program and throughout the rest of your life, you are going to be able to spot your upper limiting behaviors and beliefs, so that when they come up, you have something else programmed in place that you take action and do the opposite of what you've been programmed to do. The next piece is we work on trauma, and you might be thinking like, oh, you work on trauma in an 8-week course. Yes, because it's proactive, it gets results, and it gets you to complete and forgive and release the past, so that you can operate in the present from a space of choice and freedom and confidence, rather than referencing your past and projecting it into your future. And then we work on purpose and impact. Who are you? What are you meant to be? And then really creating a container of accountability and also co-creation with the universe, so that you are unstoppable at the end of the program. It's truly powerful. And this program, we run it regularly, and I'd love to invite you to come and play. I'm obsessed with the program. Every time I run it, I go through it myself, and I have wins and insights. I've been doing this work for a long time. So I'd love to invite you to come and play. And if it's of interest to you, I'd be happy to book in a 20-minute consultation call with you for you to discover, ask questions, and see if it's a good fit for you.
Awesome. Deidre, thank you so much for being with us today. This has been amazing.
Thank you for
And like the video and share it. It's worth sharing. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Bye now.
Thank you so much.